Most people think they know how to fight until they get knocked out. I see it all the time. Guys making the same stupid mistakes that get them wrecked in seconds. But after this video, you won't be one of them. You'll know exactly how to avoid these fight-ending mistakes and know what to do instead. Let's check it out. Mistake number 1, keeping your hands down in the pre-fight stage. This is one of the biggest errors people make before a fight even starts, leaving themselves completely open. They get caught up in the moment, emotions take over, and they don't realize the fight has already begun. Take a look at this. 2 guys standing chest to chest, yelling at each other. This is where most real fights start. The problem is, both of them are completely unprotected with their hands down. The guy who throws the first strike is almost always the guy who wins. And when your hands are down, you're giving him a free shot that can likely end the fight. Keeping your hands down during a verbal confrontation is a dead giveaway that someone has zero self-defense training. They're too caught up in arguing or posturing to realize just how vulnerable they are. Whenever you're in a confrontation by a threatening individual, your first priority should be to create distance and assume a de-escalation stance. Distance gives you time to react and minimizes the risk of a surprise attack. But if they close the gap, you need to immediately shift into a close quarters de-escalation stance, keeping your hands up and your body protected while staying ready to respond. If your goal is to avoid a fight, your stance should be non-threatening but defensive. So you need open palms, relaxed shoulders, as if you're trying to calm the situation down. This not only protects you, but also reinforces that you weren't the aggressor, making it easier to justify your actions if things escalate. But if you sense an attack is imminent, hesitation will get you hurt. Waiting until you see a punch is just too late. You need to spot the warning signs, subtle shifts in their stance, clenched fists, quick glances around the area, all indicators that violence is about to explode. If you don't act first, you'll be the one on the receiving end. Mistake number 2, squaring up like a boxer or MMA fighter. During the pre-contact stage of a fight, squaring up is a critical mistake because it instantly gives away your intent and strips you of any tactical advantage. The moment you assume this stance, your adversary knows you're going to fight, which eliminates any possibility of a preemptive strike. Unlike a boxing match or MMA cage fight, real-world self-defense doesn't have a clear start signal. Squaring up too soon locks you into a fight that might have been avoided. Even worse, someone who trains exclusively in combat sports is completely unprepared for the go, no-go dynamics of street fighting, where the decision to strike or not strike happens in a split second. Most fighters don't realize that a fighting stance is strictly a vehicle for delivering blows. It's not designed for the pre-contact phase of combat. Squaring up too soon locks you into fight mode prematurely, removing your ability to assess, de-escalate, or set up a first strike on your terms. Instead, you need to maintain control without committing prematurely. A de-escalation stance lets you appear non-threatening while staying ready to act. If the fight is unavoidable, you can immediately transition into combat mode without telegraphing it in advance. Mastering combat stances is one of the most critical yet overlooked aspects of reality-based self-defense. There are 7 essential stances you need to develop if you want to be ready for anything on the streets. If you want to learn when to use each stance, how to transition between them, and how to stay one step ahead of your opponent, check out my book, Stand and Deliver, The Street Warrior's Guide to Tactical Combat Stances. Inside, I break down the science of combat stances and how to apply them in high-risk self-defense situations. I'll put a link in the description down below if you'd like to check it out. Mistake number 3, stopping after landing one good shot. One of the biggest misconceptions people have about fighting is that a single punch or kick will be enough to end the fight. They land a clean shot and immediately hesitate, either because they assume their opponent is finished or because they're surprised it actually connected. This kind of approach can cost you in the fight. Real fights don't play out like they do in the movies, where one well-placed punch sends a guy crumbling to the floor in agony. People don't go down as easily as you might think, especially if they're adrenalized, intoxicated, or just raw aggressive. Even if your strike stuns them, stopping gives them a chance to recover, counter, or escalate. Instead, you need to ensure that the threat is neutralized. But here's where it gets a little tricky. You must only do what is necessary in the eyes of the law. If you go beyond what is justifiable, you could face excessive force charges, turning what should have been a self-defense situation into a criminal offense. This is just one of the many difficult aspects of justifiable self-defense, because the difference between stopping a threat and using excessive force is often scrutinized after the fact. The key to mastering this judgment is through realistic, full contact role-playing scenarios that incorporate probable reaction dynamics. These drills condition you to recognize when an opponent is still a threat and when they are no longer capable of continuing the fight, so you don't hesitate too soon and get countered, or go too far and find yourself in legal trouble. Without this kind of training, you're just guessing. Remember, if your first strike lands, don't just stand there and admire your work. Press the advantage, but continue to assess the threat and take only the necessary action to stop them. Mistake number 4, not understanding reaction dynamics in a fight. One of the biggest weaknesses in most fighters, even experienced ones, is their complete lack of understanding of reaction dynamics in a fight. They know how to punch, kick, and grapple, but they've never actually studied how the human body reacts to strikes from both a physical and psychological perspective. Instead of having a strategic approach, they're just winging it, throwing shots and hoping they can adapt to whatever happens next. The problem is that this kind of guesswork gets you hurt. 99% of fighters have no system for predicting an opponent's reactions, which means they waste energy, miss opportunities, and leave themselves open for counters. The human body has predictable defensive responses to pain and impact, and if you don't know what they are or how to exploit them, you're fighting blind. For example, do you understand the probable reaction dynamics when striking key targets like the eyes, chin, temple, throat, ribs, or even the groin? Every strike triggers a specific set of natural responses, but most fighters fail to recognize and exploit them in real time. Instead, they throw strikes blindly, reacting to whatever happens next, hoping for an opening rather than forcing one. Now, if you want to fully understand how an opponent's body reacts in a real fight and how to exploit those reactions for maximum effectiveness, check out my book, Maximum Damage: Hidden Secrets Behind Brutal Fighting Combinations. In this book, I break down how people instinctively respond to different types of strikes, how to predict their movements, and how to stay one step ahead of them in a fight. And if you don't understand probable reaction dynamics, you're just guessing, and guessing is not a strategy. I'll put a link in the description down below if you'd like to check it out. And if you prefer video instruction, I also have a full-featured training video by the same title, which takes an even deeper dive into the reaction dynamics in real fights. It's available for sale on my website at sammyfranco.com. If you're a War Machine Elite member, you can watch it for free in the members only section of this channel. And if you're not already a member, click the join button below and unlock tons of exclusive content and take your training to the next level. The bottom line is, if you don't understand probable reaction dynamics, you're constantly a step behind your opponent. But if you know how the body reacts to pain, balance disruption, and impact, you can stay in control, force openings, and finish fights faster. In a real fight, knowledge is power, and if you're just reacting, you're already losing. And there you have it, 4 stupid mistakes that will get you knocked out in a fight. But trust me, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are countless other mistakes people make, even trained fighters make, in real fights that leave them wide open and vulnerable. And if you don't know what they are, you're at a serious disadvantage. I'll be breaking down even more critical mistakes in upcoming videos, so make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell, and stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the next video.